Hey everyone, and welcome back to Grow Leafy. This is part 2 of herbal gardening for beginners. So if you haven't seen part 1, here you go. Make sure you go back and watch it because that's where we talked about my story and how I got into gardening and the benefits of growing herbs and starting an herbal garden. So make sure you watch that so you don't miss out. This part 2 session will be more about what my seed starting mix recipe is. There are a lot of different recipes, but this is just what I've been doing these past few months this year. So you'll be able to see step by step how I did that. And then also we get into question and answers because I had a lot of people that were there. And so there was quite a few questions that I was getting. And so I just wanted to make sure I shared with you all this experience, what I'm learning and what other people are learning, because we are all on this journey together. So let's get started with this video.
What is the difference, do you think, between a seed starting mix and a potting mix? What did she say?
Density.
Density. Oh, you're onto something. How old are you? 7 years old. You're the small one.
I whisper.
Oh, okay. It comes from mama. Okay. Okay. So, you know what? Density, nutrients, y'all are a great team. Y'all gonna be growing some good foods. So there's a difference between that. So pretty much with a seed starting mix, it's fluffy and light. I mix those two words together. It's fluffy and light. There's not compost in the seed starting mix. You do not really want compost in your seed starting mix because if you do, and if you're starting them in your homes, you may end up with fungus gnats and things like that. So the seed starting mix is very light, it's very fluffy. The potting mix has a lot more chunks of wood chips and different organic materials that are a lot more chunky in there, okay? And so you don't want your seeds lost underneath those big chunky things that are in your potting mix. And so I'm gonna demonstrate to you what's inside of a soil-less seed starting mix that I'm using, and this is something that you can do, and I can show you even how more simplified that it can be. But I started doing that this year just because I was spending a lot of money buying the bags, and I just wanted to, and I'd made so many plants, I just wanted to make sure I was, stretching my money out. But this is basically a bag of Pro Mix. This is something that you can get from the store, and if you don't even want to mix all these other things with it, and you can come check this out after I'm done speaking, but Pro Mix, it's an organic soil-based mix made of peat moss. And you can also even use coconut coir. This is a hard coil block, but you have to expand and put it in some warm water. It expands into a big, fluffy thing. There's no nutrients in it, so you have to still add fertilizer nutrients. The Pro Mix already has nutrients mixed in it. And so they add mycorrhizae, and there's vermiculite, perlite, this is perlite, there's vermiculite, so they add different fertilizers inside of it. So basically vermiculite, it helps with water retention, it really helps with insulation, it creates a barrier if you decide to sprinkle on the top of your seed starting or on top of your seed trays. It just helps also to protect it from the lighting. Like I grow indoors, so protect it from the lighting and the algae from drying. You can help with reducing that. But it's a soil conditioner and it improves aeration and moisture retention. Perlite, on the other hand, is also for soil porosity, helps prevent soil compaction and increase water retention. It's a volcanic deposits from volcanic glass that is mined. Okay, and they make it in different sizes so that you can have porosity, and so that in your soil mix, so that there's a flow of water going through. You don't want your water just to sit in the trays because it can root the rocks of your vegetables or your seeds. Another thing is worm castings. Now this is worm castings, a bag that I add, and I put this in my beds as well, but I added a little bit in my potting mix as well, in my seed starting mix, sorry. And it is basically worm poop. That's what it is, worm poop. Worm poop is fertilizer. And then there's kelp meal. So kelp meal, it is an excellent source of micronutrients, beneficial plant growth promoters, and it contains over 60 natural chelated minerals and essential elements that the fast-growing sea plant absorbs from the cold, nutrient-rich waters of the North Atlantic. That's good stuff. All right, so the way that you want to make this, okay. So the way that you want to make this, and then I'm going to put the microphone down, and I'm going to do this in 5 minutes so that you all can see this. And I'm going to, hopefully you all can hear me, so I'm going to talk really loud.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. And is this helpful to all? Is this helpful? Is this beneficial? Okay. All right, so I'm going to put this down. So the way we want to do the measurements of this, so I have basically already, and I brought, so you can see what it looks like. And I love getting my hands into my soil. So this is my mix already, but I need to add to it because I have some more things I need to plant. And so already has, so I'm going to add to it. So basically, this is a 1 gallon container. So this is 1 gallon of the Pro Mix. So whether you're using Pro Mix, and there's different variations of Pro Mix, or like a coconut coir, this is soil lift, because I don't want gnats and certain insects growing in my, flying around my house. So I'm gonna dump that in. So that's 1 gallon. And pretty much everything else besides this, I'm gonna add 1 part. So 1 gallon and 1 part. 1 part is basically equal to 1 quart. So 1 quart of 1 gallon. Does that make sense? Because I get a lot of people that ask me questions about that. So I put 1 gallon of that. So the next thing you would do is then kind of estimate it. And I really should be wearing a mask. I brought one, but I just didn't. Okay. So that's 1 quart. That's all that you need. And you do the same for each other ingredient and just dump it in. All right, next, perlite. One quart, dump it in. The worm casting. And it doesn't smell foul or anything like that. The thing about when things are composted, if it's ready and if it's good compost, you will not smell anything foul. If if it's smelling, that means the company or whomever did not do a good job in composting it. It shouldn't be smelly. It should smell just like dirt. So that's too much, so I need to scoop some out. I poured too much. Okay. That's 1 quart. And then this, just the measurement of this, and I'll just mention this. This is particular, like I mentioned, because I make a lot of seed trays, but if you can't get all of this, because it does add up, the dollar amount adds up, but if you're only making something small, you can just buy a bag. You can just buy a bag. Or you can just buy this. This already has nutrients and all that mixed in it, okay? All this other stuff, it's just to give it an extra little boost. Because they don't put a lot of perlite in there, they don't put a lot of vermiculite in it, and I want more vermiculite. And then this is just 1 tablespoon. This is the fun part. And then I just mix it in. You just want to make sure that any chunks, let's see if I find any. Sometimes I'll find little chunks in here. Just break it up. I'll find little pieces of little organic material, whatever they use, because they use sphagnum peat moss, and that's basically something that they get from wetlands, in an environment of wetlands. It's plant material that has decomposed. that doesn't have much nutritional value in it. You just mix it up. So that's how a seed starting mix looks, really fluffy. Potting mixes have a lot of wood chip type chunks in it. So that's how I want my seed starting mixes to be. And then those white, what is it called? The white perlite will really help with that water with flowing through. Okay, and that's basically how you make your own seed starting mix, and that's what's inside of it. So now if you're gonna use this and expand the coconut coir, then you would just use this instead of that, but you then have to add nutrients to it because there's nothing that's gonna feed the plant. Once it breaks out of the seed itself has nutrients in it and will feed the plant. But once it's growing into a plant, it has all of its own true leaves, you really need to add nutrition. So you could use this, but I would rather, for me personally, mix this with that. All right, now, just to pretend as a sample, when you fill up your trays, if you're starting seeds, you fill up your trays, you have a base. When you water your seeds, you water the base, so the water wicks up into the soil. Now in the beginning, on the first day or a couple of days, I do spray the mist the top lightly with a sprayer because I don't want to just water it because it will sink the seeds low and it will get lost and they won't be able to, when they germinate, they won't catch the light at the top of the soil. They'll be down at the bottom and then they'll die out. So I mist the top a little, but I water, when I'm watering my plants every day for that month or however long, I'm watering it in here, and if there's any extra water, I take it out and I dump it. And that's it. I think I did exactly in the amount of time but that's it that I have. Are there any questions? I know I gave you a lot of information, but I wanted to make sure you had all of this information. Yes, dear. What questions do you have? And this is what it looks like.
So what we have is this like potting mix with the coconut.
Say that one more time.
We have this potting mix that has that coconut stuff in it. So
Yeah.
is this good enough?
Yeah, that's good. Do you mind reading it to me? Can I read it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. A lot of it makes coconut coir. Yeah, so coconut coir is in there. Controls moisture, water. So this is Burpee. Burpee's a good company. They have the feed, so they put fertilizer, some nutrients already in there. It's very low in nutrients. It's so there's something called NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, I might be saying it backwards. NPK, nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus. Potash, I hope I'm saying that correctly. But it's those three things. And so it's low on here. It's at 0.12, 0.12, 0.12. So it's very, very little. So it's just a little bit enough just to feed the plants while they're very, very young. When you see those numbers on bags or anything like that, sometimes you'll see 7, 9, and then you might see, I'm making this up, 4. That means 7 means that's how much green. It's 7, the N is for all the green for your plants, okay? The next number, the NP, the P is for to really help the plants to bloom, the flowers. If you have a green tomato plant that's growing, but you have no flowers, then you're not gonna get any fruits. Okay? Or if you have squash plants and you're getting all this green, but you're not getting flowers, you're not gonna get fruits because the vegetable comes out of that flower, that comes out of that bloom. So if the number is low at 2, for that NP, for that P at 2, then the fruit's not gonna get what it needs. And then the last number is really for the root. So if you're growing potatoes, you want to make sure that third number is high, because you want the potatoes, they grow on the ground, they need strong roots in order to grow that vegetable in the ground. So that's the NPK. Any other questions?
She wants to grow bananas.
Oh, I want to grow bananas too. My 7-year-old, you are awesome. I'm with you. I feel you. I'm with you. I want to grow bananas too. Bananas don't grow here because it's a tropical plant, but people have banana plants, but they just don't get to the point where the fruits can really grow unless you got a greenhouse and you can grow it in your home. So just ask, see if we can grow it in the house.
My uncle has a tree in California.
In California, yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
All right, so you were saying, I like the presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate
You were
that.
saying 1 gallon of the soil, not soil, 1 gallon of the mix.
Yeah, 1 gallon of, the soilless mix. Mhm.
The 1/4 of the container of vermiculite, perlite, worm castings, and then a tablespoon of the kelp.
Yes, yeah. And there's so many different ways to do things. Like, this is just one recipe. Another gardener might have a totally different recipe. So that's another thing with gardening. Like, there's no one way of doing things. You might see this mix and then see someone else with another mix. Like that bag that she had, they added the coconut coir, right? So there might be another time where I add coconut coir or I don't. There might be another time where I don't even add the worm casting. Last year I was not even using this and my plants grew great, but I'm always just thinking of different ways that can make it better and make my own so that I can financially save than buying lots of bags, because I'm filling up big garden beds.
So when are we gonna switch? Like, that's the seed start.
Yeah, that's a seed
So
start.
then once it gets like so high, then we're gonna switch to the potting soil, or we're gonna?
Very good question. So this is because I'm just doing demonstration, this is very small. So this is 1 inch. And so, for example, you may start in this is 1 inch. It's like 1 inch and a half little tray cell. But then the plant will outgrow it. You can tell sometimes when they start to outgrow it, if it's growing up and it's like, it shouldn't be this big in this thing, it's just not getting enough space for the roots, and what will happen is the roots will get root bound. You'll see the roots even growing out at the bottom of it, and you need to transplant it, up pot it into a larger seed cell that's even larger if you're keeping it inside. Because, our winter months, it's not safe to put out your tomatoes or your peppers and things like that. And so if you're growing it indoors, you're starting in something like this because you don't want to use a whole bunch of soil at first. You want to start at this, and then you transplant it to the next pot, and you add that same mix into a new container, wrap it all in there, fill it up, and then it's now in there. Then you'll see the plant start like saying, "Thank you for up-potting me," and then it grows. So then you want to take it to the next, and then usually once I get my containers I'm using are about 2.5 to 3 inch in size. Once it's really grown in that pot, at that point, it's going in the garden. Like, I'm not growing it any bigger than that. I'm putting it in the garden. I just want it to be strong enough. And then usually, it's just because I'm so busy, because I work full time as well, that I don't have time until about spring break in April, when we're on spring break, and then May, or on a weekend. Mm-hmm. But in that 2.5 to 3, it will have enough space. But you don't want to ever leave it in something that's not going to give it enough space. Or if you have different plants that you're growing. Say you decide to grow, let me think. We're talking about herbs. You grow an herb, rosemary, what herbs are you growing? Peppermint, just whatever you're growing something. Herbs grow slower and they're smaller. Then you decide you want to grow some like greens in here. The green plant's going to take off quick. So then you can't have that in the same tray, because what's happening is the leaves are going to shadow the herbs, and the herbs are now not going to get light and be able to grow. And so you got to take out the other plant, up-pot it, and give some space to the other plant. Yeah. Any other questions?
How much light do you need when you start?
How much what?
Light.
Oh, good question. How much light do you need? Okay, so you need at least 6 hours. At least 6 hours of light. 6 to 8 hours, definitely. I see my friend back there. Hi. Okay. You need at least 6 hours of sunlight. And if you're starting in your home or by your windowsill, It really needs to be an area that gets direct sunlight, because it needs 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight. I have LED grow lights. I wish I had a picture of it.
One right here.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, like right there. 6 to 8 hours, that's a perfect example. 6 to 8 hours of sunlight, that's direct light that plant's going to get. And same thing if it's outside, you want to make sure it's getting 6 to 8 hours, or it's your windowsill, like for instance, I'm just looking, just with my eyeball. So you see that light by the parking lot? That's indirect. That maybe it was direct in the morning because the sun rises up on the east, you know. But if it was like east to the south, it would get a lot more light. It looks like there's a lot more sun right there because it's shining in onto the floor, so that would be a perfect spot if that's 6 to 8 hours. So you just want to make sure you're getting 6 to 8 hours.
So once they're in the garden and they're growing and all of a sudden like the flowers come out, but they don't produce a fruit or a vegetable, and then they just fall away. What does that mean?
Okay, yeah, that happens. She was asking what happens if, so your plants are in the garden, you get flowers, and then nothing happens, no fruit comes and it just falls. It could be that it just did not get pollinated. Because we need pollinators, bees and pollinators and flies, those different things that work to pollinate. So it probably they just did not get pollinated. A lot of times, for example, with your summer squash, like the yellow neck squash or your zucchini squash, if the bees don't pollinate, it will just fall, rot up, and then drop. Yeah. And so, or it could be that you may have, I'm going to say this the most brief way because I don't have children in here, but speaking of gardening, there's male and female flowers. Okay, and you have to have a male and female flower. And the bees have to be able to move that pollen from the different flowers. So if you just have male flowers, it's just going to drop. The fruit comes from the female flowers.
Like squash.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
When you go to the store to buy it, you buy what type of seed you get, or it's just
Chance.
Say that one more time.
So like, how do you know, like male, female, can they all be on one vine, or do you have to have 2 plants, or?
Oh, that's a good question, because you're talking about, if I heard you about seeds. Like the seed is a seed. It's just the plant itself, it produces the male and the female flower. And the question is, how do you know?
I mean, would then, like you're saying, like, okay, so it didn't get pollinated, and if they're all male flowers or whatever, then do you plant 2?
Oh, no.
Okay.
That now no, you don't, for the vegetables, no, you don't have to plant 2 plants, like a female plant. No, that one plant produces both, male and female. Now with trees, which I can't really speak on because I'm just starting to learn about trees. Like for example, if you want to plant apples or fruit trees, you have to start getting into, you need male and female. You have to plant multiple trees so that they can cross-pollinate with each other. But it's different with like your basic garden, vegetables and squash. And if there is something that is different like that, I just have not experienced that yet, and I haven't planted that yet in my garden. I thought I saw one more hand. I think I'll take one more question and then.
I was wondering if you can give them too much light.
Can you give them too much light? Like just plants in general?
Well, indoors when you're using the light.
Yeah, when I use my lights, they do sleep. They need time where they can just rest, and so, and they need that. And I even think the soil needs that, you know. So I typically I give my plants 14 to 16 hours of light, and they go to sleep. I just think the plant, like when you think of the earth, our plants rest outside. There's a reason for that. So
that's the end of the video. I had to abruptly stop it because it was cut up in pieces in order for you all to get this into certain chunks of watch time. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you really liked it, go ahead and click the like button, follow my page. I'm going to have a ton of videos to release to you all this year and ongoing. I really enjoy this gardening journey and teaching you all. And I hope that there's questions in there that were able to be answered for you. If you have any questions, just go ahead and note in a question in the comment box. But make sure that you're gardening. If you're not, start something, but start simple, start small, and remember to grow leafy. And I'll see you all next time. Bye. Happy gardening.